welcome to the greatest Tottenham versus Bodø Glimt preview on the internet. And the reason why it's the greatest is because I am joined by Sander, who lives in Bodø and has been in the front row for many of their games this season. But the cherry on the top is he's a huge Tottenham fan, and Tottenham is his number one team. So I think we're going to get the most in-depth, rounded perspective you could possibly hope for.
Yeah.
How are you, Sander?
I'm very good. How about you?
I'm doing good, thanks. I'm doing good. Great to have you on. But yeah, Sander, this is such a great opportunity to get to meet you, and we're going to get to meet you at the game as well. But there's been so much build up to this one because our seasons rests on it, really. The success of the season rests on this one game, and we're playing a club that many are saying is an easy draw in the media. And I'm keen to get firstly what your take is on that as someone who follows the Premier League very closely and Bodø Glimt closely. What do you make of those kind of comments? Is it an easy draw, or is it going to be tough for Spurs?
It's not an easy draw, for sure. Maybe the easiest, but Bodø Glimt has beaten many great teams in Europe, and I think Tottenham would be struggling if they were Lazio as well. So I don't think Bodø Glimt would be any easier than the other opponents who would be possible to get in the semi-finals.
Because they've played in 6 knockout rounds, in six two-legged knockout rounds in Europa League in the last decade, I believe it is, and they've won 6 of those 8. And that includes beating Lazio, Roma, and there's some other big clubs in there, weren't there, as well?
Yeah, and in the group stage as well, they've been performing really well in Europe, and it just has been better and better throughout the years. So they played good at Old Trafford in November, I guess. Just lost 2-1, and I think Bodø Glimt were a better team at Old Trafford.
But what are they doing to beat these teams? What makes Bodø... Because they're a club that's only recently kind of grown to their level of strength, right? Do you know much about the history on how they've kind of shot up and, what they're doing so right at the moment?
I think it came as a shock to everyone who followed Bodø Glimt. So they were in the relegation zone one year, and the next year they got to the second place, and everyone was happy. And the year after they won the league, and after that one they won 4 out of 5 seasons. So it was like from the day to another, they become a really good team.
And what's driving it? Is it a great manager? Is it more money than other clubs? Like, what do you think drives their rise?
They didn't start with any money. They started with young, talented local people, most of. And the manager, of course, he's done a great job throughout, I think he's been there now for 8 years or so.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot from the team and building a team. They're not signing any star players with high wages and earning a lot. They're buying some locals and some Danish people, and the rest is mostly Norwegian players. And they don't spend too much money, and of course more than the other Norwegian teams, because they earn money from playing in Europe. But it's not like big spending team, and it's a quite low budget compared to what Tottenham and all other the semi-finalists has.
Yeah. And by the way, when you say like they've signed a lot of local players, like Norway's got a history glittering with huge names. At the moment, Erling Haaland's the main name that we all hear, but there's also been obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and many others, Henningberg. There's been, loads of big names. Norway's got John Arne Riise. Norway's got a history of producing fantastic in-house academy players. So it sounds like what Bodø Glimt are doing is, rather than just sending them offshore straight away, they're kind of saying, actually, we can start to maintain some of these strong upcoming players for longer. We can compete in Europe. And looking at their finances, what they've done really well is they've established themselves in Europe so consistently that extra income they've had from playing in Europe and making it out the group stages, and that prize money has allowed them to consistently elevate themselves and retain these players longer. Because I know their wages are going to be much smaller than the Premier League, but they are able, therefore, to retain and offer them that level of football they want and more money for longer.
And I think they don't have the starting wages isn't too high. I think they have a lot of bonus system. So if they got to the semi-finals and go through the group stage, they're getting more money, the players. So I think it's based on bonuses for the players.
Interesting. And talking about the players, we have heard that there's the playmaker in particular is their star player who doesn't miss many minutes for them, and the whole system's built around them. Who is that? And can you tell us a bit about them? Because they're not going to be available for the first leg, right?
There are 2 players in the central midfield, which is out for the first leg. And there are 2 important players for William. One of those is Patrick Berg, the captain. He's playing the central defense midfielder. It's a holding midfielder. And he's like the central of attention of everything they have, what they're doing, both in offense and defense as well. He combines the midfield with the attacking players and also with the defenders. So he's an important player, and he plays a lot, and he's never injured and never missed a game. But now he's out.
He's suspended, right?
Yeah,
he's not injured.
Through the yellow cards. So he'll be back for the second leg.
Right.
And they don't have any clear and obvious backups for him. So I don't know who's going to play in his role in the first leg against Tottenham. And the other one is Håkon Evjen, which also plays in the midfield, and he's also out with the yellow cards. And he's more of an attacking midfielder, which is fast and creative, good on the ball. He wants to have the ball, and he creates a lot of chances. So if I should compare him to anyone, it's like James Maddison in Bodø.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've lost their Maddison, and they've lost the midfielder we wish we had, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what Spurs lack, right? That midfielder who connects defence to attack.
He's the
that
kind of
all-action midfielder.
Bissouma we wanted to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think he's... remind me of his name again.
Patrick Berg.
Patrick Berg. I'm going to stop trying to pronounce it live, and I'm going to practice off air because I'm just going to...
Patrick Berg.
Patrick Berg.
Yeah.
That's easy to remember for me. So, do you think he's the type of player that is attracting interest? The rumours locally that he's the type of player that Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, other divisions, Eredivisie are looking at? Or is he a loyal, going to stay with his club forever?
Yeah, actually, his family and his father and grandfather and his uncle has played for Bodø Glimt.
Brilliant.
So his family is a family connection to the club. And everyone in Bodø knows about the Berg family because through generations, Berg has been in the team. And he's
I love those stories.
Yeah.
I love those stories. So in a weird way, I hope he never leaves.
No, I don't think so. And he has been out for 1.5 years. He was in Lens in France.
Oh, right.
And
so he did leave.
Yeah, and he came back for the same amount which they sold him for. And it wasn't like maybe a good match. And there have been some other players leaving on short contracts out in other clubs. Some went to Germany, to the Netherlands. They played a season and they haven't break through, so they came back again. And they start performing well again in Bodø Glimt. And that's been a story and a talk about in Norway, because why doesn't a player perform well when they're going through to Europe, to the other leagues and maybe bigger leagues? And there are not any good answers to why they're not performing well in other teams. But the main reason, I think, is because of Bodø Glimt is one unit in one team. There are no star players. So they're good in a system and they're performing well in a system. But as individuals, they're more difficult to perform well.
So they've got a different problem to Tottenham, where we have a team that's not set up. Well, not set up's the wrong word. We've got a team where strengths often overlap in the same parts of the pitch. There's gaps in terms of players that you still need to kind of complete that system that aren't quite there. And the cohesion's not there right now. Whereas Bodø Glimt are consistently drilled in their system. They know what they're doing. Players know their jobs. And they're going to kind of be hard to break down then, by the sounds of it, if they're all organised. But the other thing that's been going around, and I want to touch a bit more on the other theories as to maybe why players struggle when they leave Bodø Glimt, because those similar reasons might show why players struggle when they come and play Bodø Glimt in Europe, and why they think they're going to get an easy game and they don't. And we will touch on that in a second. But you were front row of the last game, and there were messages all around social media that there's an injury crisis going on, and both of their centre-backs have gone off with injuries that seemed concerning for Bodø Glimt fans, in the sense they seemed reasonably more than just a knock, right? They seemed like they could be out for both legs, effectively, is where I'm going. Do you have any more context? Is there actually an injury crisis across the squad?
I haven't heard anything more, but I saw it with my own eyes that one of those looked like he was almost crying when he left the field. He was like holding his hands and to not show his eyes, and he looked really down when he has to go off the pitch. So I think one of the centre backs is going to be out for at least the first leg, and that's also a big loss for Bodø Glimt, because he's a consistent player, plays a lot in the central defense.
So it's one of their defenders out, not both?
I don't think it's both, only one of those, which I think.
Okay, so it's not, because the talk has been they're missing a lot of players, but if they're missing one centre back and 2 players are suspended, there's still 8 of their core 11, preferred 11 available, and in the second leg they're going to have 10 of their 11 potentially. Yeah. So I just find sometimes, I think the British media like to build things up so they can knock you down, and we like to kind of fact check a bit on it. And it sounds a bit like
I don't think it's a big crisis for Bodø, and the Norwegian media hasn't talked about this as a crisis for them. So they have backup players, so not only 11 players.
Yeah. It does sound a little bit like it's trying to set up the big English juggernaut rich club. They can't possibly fail, can they? It's only Bodø Glimt, and they've got all their best players out. Surely. And then when inevitably they come up and they face a good team in Europe in Bodø Glimt, a well-drilled team in Bodø Glimt, they can then say, oh, what a failure it was by Spurs if it doesn't work out. We were moving on to the kind of the other things that Bodø Glimt do well and what Spurs need to be wary of. I think complacency is less of an issue because Postecoglou's played Bodø Glimt as Celtic manager and seen what happens when you go there and you expect to win. You get beaten heavily. And he did get beaten heavily. So he'll have learnt that lesson, you'd think. Talk to us a bit about the conditions that are different. Like what's different about the pitch? Is there altitude differences, cold, those variations as well? Is it the atmosphere? Because I think we've got to give the fans credit. It sounds like you've got a great set of fans over there as well who create a really hostile atmosphere.
Yeah, I think especially the European nights at Aspmyra, the stadium, has been really good to watch because it's a small, closed stadium and everyone is close to the field. The artificial grass is maybe the main thing which is different when other players come to play here in Bodø because they want the ball to go fast. So they use a lot of water on the pitch to make the ball go even faster on the pitch. So Bodø Glimt wants to play the ball fast. They want the ball quick in play. They're never wasting time and things like that. They want to play. And as I said last time we talked, they focus on performance and not only the results.
Yeah. So they've got that mentality. And we have heard it with Postecoglou, to be fair, as well. And you follow both clubs closely, but Ange often says, you're playing, just remember, you're not following the moments in the game. You're not following the clock. For 90 minutes, you've just got to focus on the task at hand, but not get swayed by it being the 80th minute instead of the second minute. You've got to be your best throughout that whole period. It sounds like both those managers have a similar philosophy then.
Yeah, I think so.
Mindset.
So even if Bodø Glimt leads by 1 goal, 2 goals, they always want to score more.
Yeah.
So just like the way we want to play too.
Interesting. And with a little bit of bonus content on them as well. Oh, actually, before we move on to that, style of play. You said they like it quick, but are they going to come out and attack Spurs, or are they going to take a pragmatic approach over each leg and differentiate how they play, do you think?
They usually never take to make big differences when they meet different teams. They play like their own style of play, even though if they're meeting the baddest team in the Norwegian League or out in Europe. But it's difficult to say now. It's a semi-final. They're probably going to have some expectations, even if they're meeting Tottenham. And I think Bodø is going to attack. They want to score, and I think Tottenham should be aware of what they're meeting.
So this is important. Interesting. So this is important to highlight for Spurs fans. You've heard it firsthand from someone who sits in the front row at these games, lives in Bodø, and is a Tottenham fan. There is no injury crisis. There's one defender out and 2 other players suspended that are going to be back for the second leg. So they're going to have 10 of their 11 players in the second leg.
And one of the backup strikers is also out on the red card from the last game.
So in a backup striker, right?
Yeah,
so they've got a very strong squad available. It's a media build-up to make it sound like an easy tie. They've beaten huge names in Europe consistently over 2 legs. They're going to have a really hostile atmosphere. They're going to make that ball move fast on their pitch. And it's not going to be... They've got a great, cohesive team of lots of solid players and a fantastic fan base. It's not going to be easy. So the narrative that Spurs haven't had easy draws, you don't get to the semi-final by not being a good side.
No.
So
they haven't been lucky in any games. They've been the better team over 2 legs. So in the first leg against Lazio, they only win 2-0 at home. And Bodø Glimt with a team which get robbed. They should have won 4 or 5-0 based on the chances they were getting.
Wow. Well, there you go. It's not... Yeah, so I just feel the general narrative is we've got 1 foot in the final. Task at hand, people. Think like the managers of both these clubs. You've got to first focus on this task at hand, not what's next. This could be the hardest draw we have in the whole tournament. So, and the bonus bit of content was the yellow toothbrushes, I think. So I know we spoke about this bit before. Maybe it's a bit exaggerated by the media, but you will see yellow toothbrushes in the crowd. If you're going to the game, you will probably see that. And you'll be like, why are they carrying yellow toothbrushes? But the story is, as they were geeing up their fans.
Yeah.
One of the conductor, shall we say, used a yellow toothbrush, and that caught on to a local toothbrush company in Norway, which then started handing out yellow toothbrushes and saw the marketing opportunity, and they've adopted this as their mascot, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah, so it's just stuck for years.
Things started in the 70s to conduct the crowd and get everyone to sing along.
Brilliant.
And now it's more like a funny thing, and you don't see everyone having a toothbrush to the game, but there are some still in the stands which is holding a giant big toothbrush, like 1 meter.
Love it. Well, any final comments from you, Sander, you wanted to add that maybe we haven't covered, or anything else?
I'm quite nervous for the game.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people coming from Bodø to London and actually having expectations to
You
beat
included?
up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to be in the South Stand, so.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, if you are coming to the game, we do a podcast meetup. Maybe you didn't know this. So South Stand by Teen Grill. So hopefully Sander will be there with us too. We all catch up in a big group and really soak in the atmosphere. We've got a great TIFO thing coming, which should be fun as well. That's not led by us, by the way. I've just sounded like I've led that, but absolutely nothing to do with this podcast. But as I'm also in the South Stand, we'll be lifting that up, Sander. And our one thing we can do is try match that atmosphere their away fans are going to bring, which I'm sure is going to be...
They're going to bring a lot of atmosphere to the game, so we should definitely keep up to sing along.
Yeah, cool. Well, up the Spurs and roll on Thursday.
Come on, you Spurs.